I say, know your audience, know your audience. Doesn't matter what me, if 55-year cis white male, says about what you're styling and whatnot. It's who are you selling to? And it may not even be you, right? I mean, you may have a product that you're selling to people that you don't know much about. Go with common denominator. And as you get to know your audience more, then you can gear yourself to them. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave that up. It's probably giving some people headaches.
To me, it just says flower power.
Yes. Okay. The other thing, which I mentioned before, is who are you competing against? And how are they selling? Because ultimately, unless you have some brand new thing, you're gonna get compared to something else. Now, maybe you have a far superior product that does 20 things better, but you know, I have a computer monitor that has built-in AI, so I don't have to reboot my computer every time I want to record something. But it's built right into the monitor, right? It's not even on screen. It just knows how to record, knows how to do everything and whatnot. But some people are going to look at it and be like, well, you're charging $1,000 for a monitor. Why? Why do I care? You know, and I can buy a beautiful 60-inch Samsung monitor that's curved and does 3D and holographic images and all kinds of things for less than what you're selling. So no, it's not just who is your competitor, but who is your perceived competitor. And take a look at what they are doing. A lot of times we go into a lot of these companies and we'll be doing new designs. And we will always say to them, oh, well, here, you're Cuisinart. You're Cuisinart. I'm setting up a site for you. Who are your competitors? And they'll say, oh, well, you know, they'll mention like 4 German companies that I've never heard of before. And we bring up their sites and we look at it and we say, okay. I said, what about KitchenAid? Oh, no, we don't compete against them. We're the next level up. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure you're not getting compared to them? Let's maybe look at what they're doing. So before you go and try to create your site, understand your product, understand your audience, understand your competition. Because it will define the decisions that you make as you're creating your site, as you're doing your marketing, as you're trying to set up just the style of your website. Questions? I'm not formal, so if you have a question, just raise your hand, shout it out, throw something at me, whatever. All right.
Quick question. How do you manage those conversations when a client or somebody might think that one thing is their competitive set or their product is this and like it's clearly not, like it's that was poorly worded.
That's why I use the word perceived, right? Because a lot of times we'll go in and we'll say, who are your competitors? And they'll go, oh, these guys. And we'll say, okay, you do know that if I run a Google search on your product, I get your thing coming up and I get one of your competitors, but I also get these other 2. And even though they're not in the same ballpark as you, they're a perceived competitor. Why? Because people who don't know about things like this are going to go through Google. They are. Everybody's going to go to Google and run a search. And if they run a search for your product, you should be looking at the top 5 other people that come up there that are trying to do the same thing. And even if they're not a direct competitor, you have to understand you're going to be matched against them because Google is telling them to. Same thing, it's similar to ChatGPT, right? Go to ChatGPT, run a search, let it come up. What is it going to tell you? So maybe it's not your competitor. Maybe you don't perceive them as a competitor, but others will. And you need to be able to differentiate yourself from them. They don't always want to hear that. And a lot of times they'll say, well, you don't really know our stuff. And our response to that typically is, you're trying to grow your audience. You're trying to grow the number of people that are coming to your site and buying your products. How are they going to get there? Google. Well, guess what? Google your product. And even if it's not something, people are going to see that and they're going to say, well, why is their product 800 times better? I mentioned earlier on in here, I mentioned a couple of the sites that I did for a company called Tapestry, which owns Coach, Kate Spade, and Stuart Weitzman. Stuart Weitzman and Kate Spade are extreme high-end brands. You will not see their stuff you won't see their stuff in Macy's. You won't see it on Amazon. You won't see it in their stores. It is a very high-end brand. If you Google sundress, they're not going to be in your top 10. For them, they do a different style of marketing, right? So again, it doesn't wind up becoming, hey, somebody doesn't try to find their special dress by Googling sundress. It's, I saw somebody wearing this at cons. What is it? Poof, here it is. I saw some celebrity wearing this. What is it? And even with ChatGPT, they could just load a picture. I saw this dress, I really like this. And that's the kind of marketing that they get into. And they're okay with that. So the Google thing doesn't mean anything because they're like, we don't care about them. Our dresses are $800 a dress. We don't, it's not Google we want, it's somebody going, hey, I saw some celebrity wearing this. What are they wearing? So you have to be careful about it, but perceived is the key word there if you're going in and saying, hey, you say that they're not your competitor, but the people who are going to be searching for this type of thing are going to go to Google or ChatGPT and they're listing them out. Yeah. So you need to be able to differentiate yourself from them.
Yeah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I have kind of a follow-up question to that then. So, for instance, there are probably some brands out there that have a really strong sort of, almost like an aesthetic to it that sort of differentiates them kind of by themselves. I'm trying to think maybe Anthropologie, for example, has a certain sort of French cottage core thing going on, right? And nothing else is really like that. So how does that fit into all of this too, where you have...
So Coach is one of them, right? Coach bags, very big, leather. They put out a marketing campaign to try and get younger people to come in and do it. And what the marketing campaign is we will recycle products. If you're done with your leather bag, if your leather bag rips, if you had an old Coach thing, you can come, trade it in. We will give you a $100 coupon or something like that to buy something else. And we're going to recycle that bag into wallets and into keychains. It was great because it helped their costs. Yeah. It was a heck of a marketing campaign to say, hey, we recycle. It did not do well. Because ultimately, the people they were trying to target were saying, I don't have enough money for a Coach bag. I don't see the value add of buying a Coach purse or backpack that's $200-300 when I can go to Amazon and buy a $100 one. And yeah, maybe it won't last me 20 years, but it'll last me till I can then afford a Coach one. So they still knew Coach was still in their mind. They thought the recycling stuff was a neat thing, and it is, quite frankly, but it wasn't compelling enough to drive a lot of people to them. So sometimes you miss, is really what it comes down to. I mean, not all marketing campaigns work. And all you can really do, at least from my perspective, is give your input on how you think it's going to be perceived, how to present it to them, make sure that you're presenting it to the appropriate audience, and hope. I mean, like I said, it didn't work. I think you can still do it. The program is still there, but they're not pushing it. It's not something that they're like pushing out there now. So I will tell you though that from my company's point of view, we did not think it was a value add for them. They were spending a lot of money on it, and we did not present the idea to them, I will say. What I had to do as the e-com architect was figure out how it all works on the site. How do I present this on the website? How do I sort of say, hey, we got this new program, and explain how it all works, and if you trade in this, you trade in a backpack, we make 2 handbags, and they even had a service. All Coach bags, a lot of like high-end Louis Vuitton high-end bags have a little serial number on them. When a bag was returned and it was recycled, they added that serial number to the serial number of the product. You could actually track if you went and opened, if you got like a key fob and you saw like 3 serial numbers on it, you could go to the website and look up and see what this once was, which I thought was kind of neat. But again, it's not really a value add for selling. Yeah.
I think that ad came off the back of the big scandal in Europe, where the large fashion houses were creating bags, but then keeping the supply artificially low to maintain a high price. So I think the recycling...
No company would ever do that.
Well, they were caught doing it on a large scale. So when you start, going through leather products require leather to come from somewhere, and it's not going to come from plant sources at this point.
I can tell you, I'm enough of a nerd that in the meeting when they were presenting it and they were talking about showing sort of the history of it, all I could think of was there's a Douglas Adams book called Restaurant at the End of the Universe, where they're all eating dinner, and they said, and suddenly a cow appears at their table. He says, "Yes, I'll be your entree this evening. I've been working on my hindquarters, so I highly recommend those steaks from there. Okay, I'm going to go in the back and shoot myself now and enjoy your meal." And all I could think of was going all the way back to, oh, here's my cow, So.
Well, the issue was that they would rather destroy the bags than to sell them at a reasonable price. Right. To maintain
The exclusivity of it.
Correct.
Yes.
So the recycling was an attempt to be eco-friendly, but also to shake off some of the stigma that plagued that industry for some time. So there was a bit more to it than just recycling.
Yes, I don't doubt. But from a marketing standpoint, we all kind of looked at it and went,
yeah,
I'm not really sure that's going to work, but
it had its side effects.
there were side effects. I get it. So let's talk about organizing your site. People are going to hopefully come to your site. I will talk a little bit later on how somebody gets to your site. But for right now, I want you to think about, if you're setting up your website, think about if you are selling your product, if you open up a brick and mortar store, right? Think about Target, Walmart. I hope everybody here has been to one of those. So, again, this is more geared towards if you have multiple products and multiple categories. If you have 1 or 2 things, it certainly makes life easier. You don't have to do a lot of categories and search and all those things. But as a general rule, when you're laying out a website, you have a homepage that says who you are. What is it you do? What is it you sell? What differentiates your company and products from others is kind of a high level. Categories, if you sell different things, how would you categorize them? Again, if I'm going back to a brick and mortar store, category is just a group of products that go together. So if you have a couple, maybe you're selling a product and a service, right? I'll sell you this piece of software, but I'll also sell you a service to come in and install it. Those are 2 different, very rather distinctly different things. You want to categorize them. If you get up into you're selling 25 products, categorization is a way to do a couple of things. One is group your products to make it easier for people to find. But also it gives you a space to say why a customer may like this group of products over a similar group of products. You talk about, was you talking about getting like conversion funnel? Conversion funnel, right? So the conversion funnel for a website is how many people hit your homepage? How many people ultimately hit your product page? How many people add to your cart? How many people complete a checkout? We call that the conversion funnel, and it goes like this. A good conversion rate is down. I know a lot of companies that run their conversion rates down around like 5%. Conversion rates can be very, very low. If you set up your website, don't be discouraged by it. The less things you sell, the bigger the percentage will become. What happens is when you have a large thing of products is they say, hey, you sell this type of widget, and they're going to see, hey, you got 5 or 6 of them. The person goes, I don't really know what I really want there. They're going to go out to Google and go, well, which one do I really need? And Google's going to go, here's the differences between, here's different places, and here's different people that sell them. And that's why you lose things. So if you have a very focused set of products, people will come to your site for that thing. Your conversion funnel will be much bigger. And I'm just saying, just don't get discouraged. A lot of marketing, a lot of companies focus on conversion funnels. And I mean, I know a lot of companies that run under 5%, and they are very profitable.
In retail, it used to be a nail, it used to be 2%, 3%. So 5% is a lot better than it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
Also on your website, for every product or service you sell, it should have a dedicated page. And the reason for that is here's my product. Here's everything you need to know about it. And here's why it's better than everything else that's out there. And you're going to want that for every single product and service you sell. People don't buy from a listing, generally don't buy from a listing page. People drill in and want to know, really, how much does this cost? And why should I buy it from you guys? And what's the, what differentiates you? Search comes in handy when you have more than, it's very strange. I believe the number, and actually the number used to be 27 products, and you would want to involve search. I think that actually the number is down to 17 now. If you have 17 or more, you want to put a search on your site. Making people scroll to find things is not a good thing. People want to be able to get there immediately. And there are, you can Google this. I think it's 17 now. One time it was 27. I think it's down to 17. People are very impatient. They don't want to scroll. Content. Besides your products, you're going to want to have other pieces of information on your site. Who are you? What is your company? You want to use this as a place to say why somebody should feel good about buying from you. Do you recycle? Do you give to charities? Do you do whatever? You want content on your site. You don't just want a site with, here's my product. People want to know, well, if I'm about to give you this money, Bombas is a perfect example of that. Bombas is like, we sell socks, and our socks cost 4 times as much as other people. But for every sock you buy, we give some to homeless people. And it's right up there, right up front. It's in their content, and it makes it. Their socks are very good. Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm wearing a pair right now. But people feel good about buying from them. It makes them feel better about themselves to buy from them, even though they're more expensive, because they help other people.
I have a question.
Yep.
Regarding content. Is the content still relevant if the page product is actually the landing page from other links? Like I have a video on social media, on TikTok or wherever, and then people will go on my website just to finalize the purchase.
Mhm.
In this case, is the content still having a good quality content still relevant?
Yes. So, I mentioned here this thing called a category landing page. So on your site, I don't really. It's a type of content page. Your product page should be where they can click on Add to Cart. That should not be the entry point for your website. You should have what's called a home page, which has, here's my products, here's a description about me and what I do. When Google crawls a site, it is expecting that the root page it hits is a home page, and that from there it can crawl out to your other pages. And so that doesn't mean, however, you can't post social media things that link them directly to your product page, or that link them to a content page as well. You can link them to wherever. That's part of your control. You could have a single product, single page, and people just go there and click here and buy. You could. I personally think that you're better off giving them a little more information on a homepage, say who you are and why they should feel good about buying the product from you. And then having a product page, which says, here's the product, here's why it's better than everything else.
What do you think about, like let's say, and maybe to your example, like let's say somebody's coming from TikTok. They saw an item, they're like, oh, that looks cool. And they go click a link. What do you think about mixing, like having a content and product page, essentially telling the whole story? Oh, okay. Final bullet.
No, it's actually a very good question. Yes, people are going to link into your site through two major sources. Search engine, i.e. Google, as well as social media. Google does two things. One, it wants an entry page. It wants an entry point into your site to say, here you are, here's what you are, here's what you do. And then from there, they want to see what you're selling. It doesn't mean it can't be right on the home page. Your product can't be right on the home page. Again, social media sites and links specifically to specific products, you're going to want to bring them to a product detail page. Your product detail page shouldn't just be, here's the product, here's the price, add to cart. Because people are going to go, I need more info than that. So yes, you should have hybrid pages. That will have some content in it, that will have some product information in it. A lot of times, a lot of these places, you will bring them to a landing page, which will say, hey, you came here from TikTok. We love our TikTok people, and you probably came here from watching so-and-so use our product, and he's a great content person and whatnot, and he loves our product. Click here to go to the product. So you'll find, again, depends on how big you are, how many products you're selling, you may want to consider either bringing them right to your product page to buy, or you may bring them to a landing page that says, hey, we know he had this product, but we have 3 other versions that might meet your needs better. We typically call those a category landing page because usually it's hey, we have 3 products that do what you were looking at, but this one's cheap. This is the one you were looking at. This one's cheaper, and this one's more expensive, but it has these extra bells and whistles. So it kind of comes down to how big and what it is you're trying to sell. You have 1 product. Here you go. Take them right there. Put everything on there. Be careful though. If you remember what I said earlier, people don't like to scroll. So we have this thing called above the fold, which is actually from an old newspaper term. For those of you who are old like me and used to read newspapers, that people would walk by newsstands and they would look at everything above the fold in the newspaper. And if it caught their eye, they would stop and get it. But if it wasn't above the fold, people would just walk by. Same thing with the pages on your website. People generally don't like to scroll. So you want to try and fit compelling reasons, compelling information in that first screen. That doesn't mean you can't have other things below. Just keep in mind, people don't like to scroll. And especially on your phone, you have even less space.
Do you have any like rough stats of how many people scroll? Like I'm sure it varies depending on the company, of course, but like I have no intuitive sense of how many people are like note and bounce like without even scrolling at all.
I don't have it. You can find that. I will tell you there is a trick that in tech we use. Something called lazy loading. There's a magic number where people will walk away from your site if your page does not load. It used to be, when I started, 7 seconds. If your page didn't load in 7 seconds, everybody's laughing now, right? Because it's now down to like 2.5 seconds or something. If a page doesn't load in that amount of time, people go, I don't have the patience. I'll walk away. So there's a trick we use. We do something called lazy loading, which basically means that when the page first loads, you get everything above the fold. And we take that and we draw that. And that's what gets drawn immediately. And that has to be done in under, I think it's 2.5 seconds, something like that. Everything below the fold can wait. And so it's called lazy loading. We basically say, load this stuff first, and it immediately comes up. And it says, once that's done loading, okay, now go load the rest of the page. And so you can see it on sites. The page will come up, everything will come up, you'll see everything, and all of a sudden your scroll bar will start getting bigger after it. That's because they're using lazy loading, because it gets you by that 2.5 second. It gives the information to the people really quickly. So while I don't have an exact answer to you, I can tell you we have this concept of lazy loading because people can't even wait 3 seconds for a page to load. Even if you're on 3G, people don't like to wait. So
Unless if it's a government service.
sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes you're forced to, and yes, that is true.
Google Analytics has a nice function that lets you actually see how far somebody gets down a page, 25%, 50%,
Yep.
55%. And you can then follow their journey through the site.
Yes. So
yeah.
one of the things I'll talk about here is site metrics. I put that a little later. It is important though, and it is important to know. We talked about conversion funnel. That's also based on your metrics. As I said, this was 101. So you want to get out and sell things, you're not necessarily care about those types of analytics. As you grow, though, it becomes much more important. It explains to you how your customers are using your website and why are they scrolling? What are they looking for? If they're using search terms, what are they searching for? Successful e-commerce companies are always looking at their metrics, always adapting their site because they're saying, hey, this is our audience. This is actual people doing things on our site and they can't find what they need or they're not making a purchase. And you can infer what the problem is by looking at the metrics. That's 201.
And they are. You actually hear from them precisely what they're looking for.
Yes.
Because it's captured in the conversation.
That's 301. So, I'm a tech guy. Getting somebody to your site, getting them looking at your product does not help you unless somebody can actually purchase the product on your site. I throw a bunch of things up here, but really most e-commerce platforms handle a lot of this for you. And it's the big thing that I'd like you to take away from here, from the purchasing thing, even though we talk about, hey, you're doing taxes and additional fees and explaining those things, which may become more important to you, Additional fees is where one of the sites I worked on is Goodyear. Tires are bare to get rid of. So when you do purchasing from Goodyear, a lot of times you'll see it will automatically add in, and you have to remove, if you want to, a little checkbox that says it's a $5 tile disposal fee or whatever it is, $25 disposal fee per tire. Yeah, and when I first saw it, I was like, "You're automatically setting it," and they were like, "No, nobody hangs on to nobody wants old tires. Get rid of them." Nobody complained about it. As a matter of fact, they have a lot of they do a lot of that. The one thing though that I want to talk about though with purchasing is security of your website. Even if you're doing a homegrown website, do not try to write your own credit card processing. It's just not worth it. The ROI is just not there. And all you need is one little problem, and it will very quickly become known, hey, that site's not secure, you can't give them your credit card, it's not, or Apple Pay or whatever. It got published, it's not there. There are plenty of services that are very inexpensive. Square, I think Square does 25 cents per transaction, something like that. And it depending on your volume as you go up. I know Chase one time, their processing fees were running at about 13 cents a transaction, but you had to do like 1 million transactions over the course of a couple of months or something like that. In the end, the ROI of trying to develop your own versus using somebody who's done it, one of these third-party packages just handles it for you. They're safe, they are secure, and their business is to make sure it's safe and secure. And in the end, all you care about getting is your money. You don't care about, oh God, I gotta store the credit cards and I gotta encrypt this stuff and make sure people can't hack me and I can't get it. It's not worth it. It's just not. There are plenty of services from very reputable companies that offer safe, secure. They will do some companies do fraud checks. You come in, you enter a card, and they're like, this was reported stolen, you can't have this. Or, the person whose credit card this is for is supposed to be halfway across the country. And will alert you. So purchasing is a basic fundamental. You need to get your money, and that's the whole point of you doing this. What I'm trying, but nothing will hurt your reputation as a company faster than somebody's able to hack your site and get somebody's credit card. You will not weather that storm. Yeah.
I've recently learned this, and you maybe can help me understand that, make sure help confirm my understanding is right or wrong. I recently learned, so if you sell things online, so let's say a person in Alaska buys my cool widget online. If I sell enough of those widgets, I have to pay state taxes in Alaska.
Yes.
However, every state has a limit. So if I'm under that limit, I don't have to pay any tax on that. Is that correct? Like I think it's like $10,000 worth of sales or something like that. There's some way higher.
There are various rules around it. When it comes to taxes, though, you're better off talking to a tax person than me. There are a lot of companies that do taxing that set up and will handle all the tax stuff for you. There's Avalara, which has a product called Avatax. There's Vertex, which has, I can't remember what their product is. But also some of the e-commerce platforms have built in, hey, we'll do it for you. We'll set up and we'll add the tax and we'll break up so that you can run a report to say, here are your taxes. But there are all kinds of funky rules around taxation that happen state, county, city level.
Oh yeah.
So again, you trying to figure out all that yourself. Even Colorado now has a e-commerce sites delivering to Colorado have to pay Colorado a delivery tax sorry, it's considered a delivery fee, and that's taxable in some counties and not others. It gets really complicated really fast, especially depending on the product. Goodyear, oh my God, taxes of the city, state, county, it's horrible. It's everybody wants a piece of it. You are, like, once again, better off working with somebody who knows. If you're going to be selling into a certain place, again, e-commerce platforms have some very basic things that just say, I'll put together a tax rate for you. You just tell me where. But if you're really going to be selling something that's got weird taxation and things, rules on it, you're going to want to involve an expert. So either a tax person, CPA, or one of these third-party companies that handle it.
Yeah, or you lean on a vendor that does the tax. Like I think Stripe might handle a lot of these taxes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They probably take a higher cut. Or another
Stripe.
thing like merchant of record is a thing.
Yep.
So like, of course, yeah, like it's good advice. Like seek a tax consultant of some kind. But
Yeah, and there are weird rules. One of my clients is offers a pay over time option, and that does weird things with some of the taxation because it used to be that when you make a purchase on a website, it's a two-part process. It's called you do authorization, which is validating that you can use that card and that it's got monies and stuff for it. And a lot of times it'll even reserve an amount.
Yep.
And then there's something called settlement. And settlement says, nope, now's when I'm taking the money.
Yeah. Restaurants do that with tips and stuff.
Exactly. So they'll put a hold on it, and then they'll put it. Actually, a really nasty one is gas stations.
Yes,
a lot of time at gas stations,
yeah.
you'll see $100 receipt. It's not actually a receipt. That's just that's an authorization for that amount of money, and then it will settle for less.
shady.
With e-commerce sites, the rule is you auth when somebody is making the purchase on your site. You settle when it has shipped.
You'll see it on you go to a gas station like Wawa, you purchased $20 in gas, and you look at your
It'll
online
immediately
statement,
start with $100.
it will say $20 and then an additional $1. And then when the transaction is complete, that dollar
Yep.
disappears.
Yes. Actually, some gas stations, you'll do $20 in gas, it'll say, well, we're going to auth for $100.
Yep.
And then when it
Yep.
settles, it'll go, well, we settled for 20.
Yep.
So that happens. That's a pretty common practice, just to make sure that somebody isn't trying to defraud and take and steal something and get away with it before it handles it. But I know it scares the hell out of a lot of people when they see it. With e-commerce sites, the rule is, let me rephrase, the rule of thumb is you auth at time of purchase when somebody actually clicks the buy now, make your purchase. And the settlement happens when you ship. It's a rule of thumb. It is not a legal thing. If you are using, I think it's, I don't know if it's Stripe or Square, one of them does both at the same time. And then if you have to stop or change, you actually have to cancel it. And then re-auth and redo it.
That seems intentional.
Yes and no. 90% of the time, fine. As a matter of fact, if you get into dealing with big things and dealing with fraud detection, there's a huge argument that goes on of, do you run the fraud protection first or do you do the auth first? So the auth will actually give you information that helps the fraud make a decision. But you've now authed. If your fraud comes back, it fails, you now have to de-auth.
Yeah.
Which, guess what? You pay money to do that.
Okay, I see.
So there's this big argument that happens of, well, should I do the fraud first and not even go to the other one? Well, you can, but the fraud won't be as accurate.
I think Stripe does, so I've used Stripe and I've used it in the context of digital goods, and that maybe that's why, and I think that might be where it started. So that might be why they lean towards like one event, because like
Because
it's
there's no-
it's instantaneous anyway. Like you got your download
Right, it
immediately
ships
or
it's
whatever.
there, yeah,
So
sure.
that's my guess.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Don't they also make more money if you have to cancel and redo a transaction because they can charge 2 fees?
Correct.
So they
That's-
make more
Yeah,
money.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
as a retailer, you don't want to do that.
No, they
Yeah.
do.
But-
Processor.
Yeah.
But what's the price to, hey, somebody's defrauding. Somebody's stolen this, we think somebody has stolen this card.
Yeah.
Right.
Then, because then if you sell to them and you don't check for fraud, and it is a fraud, guess who's out? The retailer's out. You mentioned before about multiple pages on your site. This is a big one. Pretty much every website is going to have some kind of legalese on it. It's going to talk about, hey, we do an auth for $20 more and then we settle for less at the end. Hey, you can return your product within 30 days if it hasn't, been opened or anything out of your package, right? Hey, we take your information, we sell it to Google and Facebook. You laugh.
More
It is-
common than
It is a huge way to
Yeah,
make
it's
money.
in there.
Legalese. You're going to want a page with legalese. And or you may, you can put blurbs throughout your site. But having one page with pretty much all of your biggies
Is
is
there
a
a
big
standard checklist of like what the certain things you should cover? Like obviously you mentioned like a return policy was a thing you mentioned, but what other sort of stuff should we?
Again, it depends on what you're selling, good versus service. Are there restrictions on some products? So sometimes you can't sell to certain cities, states.
Oh, sure.
You're going to want that in the legalese because all of a sudden somebody gets all the way through, gets to purchasing, and you don't know their address till they enter the shipping information. Then all of a sudden it comes and goes, nope, I can't do that. Right? You're going to want that in your legalese.
I have a quick but unpopular question. Why is there so much more legalese for a purchase on a website than there is if I walk into a store?
That is a very good question. Have you ever looked at your printed receipt from the store?
Yes.
Did you notice that a lot of times on the back there's a bunch of legalese printed
Right.
out on it?
But the transaction's been done at that point, so they can't inform you after you've done the transaction.
If there is something that has to be done beforehand, it should be posted somewhere. It's usually in the bathroom behind the toilet, and, so that But they can then say to when the state comes and somebody says, "Hey, they're suing you because you didn't tell them that they had to pay a tire disposal fee." Oh yeah, no, go over here.
See the black on the wall.
Here, let me lift up the toilet lid for you. See, it's right here. Very clear, right there. It says it right there, under the pot of plant. So what it comes down to though is, for a lot of the legalese on the website, there isn't a person there that. We'll get to AI in a minute, in a few minutes, but there isn't generally a person there that can answer the question of what is your return policy? What if I want to return this? Right? That's why you got all these legalese pages. If I'm making this, you mentioned, looking at the receipt and there's a $5 additional fee. What is that? You can ask somebody if you're in a store. If you're on a website, you can't.
It's probably a practical thing too.
That's changing. That's changing. But before AI, right? There isn't. And so what would wind up happening is you wind up with people suing all over the place. Hey, I went to buy this from you and now I'm trying to return it to you and you won't take it. You've opened it up and let your dog chew on it. No, we're not going to take that back. Well, you didn't say anything about, there's nothing on your site that says that. So
if you're a mom and pop shop in Frederick, and you're just selling in Frederick, you're not doing international. So just from that alone, the amount of compliance and laws that you would have to abide by as I'm a shop owner in Frederick versus I'm an international corporation, that I think would account for some discrepancy between the amount of legalese too, I would guess.
Welcome to eCommerce 201.
You did it.
You're now selling products. You're making money. Now what? What do you do? Keep going. Do not sit on your laurels. Things change too quickly these days. If you have a product or service and it's doing pretty well, that's great. 6 months from now, there's going to be 4 other people. You know, it's 6 months from any product you sell that's got any kind of tech in it. 6 months from now, somebody in China, probably China, will have a knockoff that they're selling somewhere else through some other channel that's undercutting you. It is just a reality. And I've worked for companies that are on both sides of that, by the way. It's just a reality. There are protection laws and things like that, but the simple reality is if you start selling your product and you are doing well, you can't just sit back and rest on your laurels. You don't just go, great, give me my millions, I'm going to retire. It's not going to work that way. You need to keep expanding, you need to keep building, you need to keep adapting. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to, like Coach, hey, we recycle our leather, it's great, you give us back your things and whatnot. That, from a marketing standpoint, I know there are other things, but from a marketing standpoint, it did not work. And you will see at successful companies and successful websites all the time, they'll run promotions and it's By the way, anybody know what one of the most successful promotions that you could have been in the last 30 years? This killed me at 4 different companies I worked at. And it even has I bet the name will give it away. The Oprah effect. Oprah would go on her show and say, I love this great new product. And within 24 hours of doing that, I believe the number was running around 50% of the sites that were selling that product crashed. They just got swamped. They got clobbered, and they couldn't handle it.
They use that. Amazon uses that example as part of their scaling.
Yes,
sales
it
pitch.
is a huge thing.
Yeah, but if you set your scaling limits to 2 like I do, it doesn't help. You're setting to 2 all the time.
So,
Crap goes on anyways.
as you're growing, as you're trying new things, just be aware. Hey Oprah, I got this new product. Check it out. It's great. Takes off. Your site crashes. Doesn't help anybody. So, as you're trying new things, be aware of what the effect of that new thing might be. Maybe it won't take off. Maybe it will. The worst thing you can have happen to your website is you have a product that just goes, and your site goes on you.
So how much do you help with like business intelligence and key performance indicators? Like what do you do for the business in that regard?
Me personally?
Yeah, like if they
Me personally, not much. It's all about around metrics. We'll talk about metrics coming up here and tracking who's using your site. And then there's another extension of that, which is something called SEO. How are people getting to your site? And you can monitor how people are getting to your site as well. So you can see, hey, if I run this promotion, I see that it got picked up in TikTok Shop, which then increased, people hitting my site by X, right? All that's done through metrics tracking, business intelligence. From my perspective, it's as an architect, as a tech guy, it's metrics. It all comes down to metrics, and you can track metrics on your site. You can track metrics at Google. You can track metrics if you do something called cross-site marketing, which is having your products appear on other people's sites. You can track all of that. So that way hey, last time I worked with Bob, I put an advertisement on his site, I saw a bump of 5%. Okay. All right, I'm going to do Bob, and I'm going to try Lisa. I'll try her site. I hope I get 5% from both of them.
But when you guys help a company set up a site like Coach, do you do the back-end reporting, or do you help the management know what's going on?
Yes, well, typically that is managed by the company itself. We will help them define a lot of metrics. Page hits, page views, who's scrolling down the page. We have things called heat maps, so we can see as people move their mouse around the page what their mouse is doing on the page. There's a company called Dynatrace, which does quote unquote real user monitoring. You can bring up a user session and watch it play out. You can see exactly how person X used your site. So it can get very, very detailed. So some people don't get that detailed. Some people are like, now just show me, the conversion funnel. And pretty much everybody wants a conversion funnel you set up. Some people will go, I did this promotion and it failed. I want to know why. Okay, well, let's go look at the metrics. Let's go look at what you did. You said that, you want us to look at this. So we've set up this heat map for you. We've set up Dynatrace to be able to track this stuff so you can see how people interacted. You can do, excuse me. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with metrics. There's a lot you can do with there's something called A/B testing that you will hear about if you get involved, where people will put up, you will get to a website, and this may have happened to some of you. You go to a website and says, hey, you get a buy one, get one free advertisement. So you reach out to your friend, hey, I was thinking of doing this. If I buy one, I get one free. You want to split the price with me? And the person goes up, he's like, well, let me go look. He looks at the website, he's like, I see a 40% off coupon. I don't see a buy one, get one. It's an A/B test. They're setting up two promotions and they want to see which one does better. So depending on, at different people, some people will be in group A, some people be in group B.
Amazon does that. Amazon does that.
Oh, everybody. It is a huge thing. It is a pain in the ass to track from the metrics.
But I'm counting.
Amazon does it for sure,
Yep.
and Amazon also does geo stuff, so you can get a better price if you're standing in Walmart, because they want you to not buy what's in front of your Walmart. So they'll drop $5 off the price.
So do all my Amazon shopping at Walmart. That's what I'm hearing.
So there is, I'll talk about it a little bit later, there is this concept of quote unquote personalization. You will see, and this is actually big for a lot of various sites, if there's a national disaster, if you're in that area and you go to that website, it'll be like, hey, we know you're having problems, here's a 70% off coupon, tell us what you need, we'll get it to you. But if you're, if you're 2,000 miles away and in the other end, it comes up and it's just like, yeah, hey, how about giving some, instead of that, you get a, hey, if you chip in $50, we'll give you a 10% off coupon.
Yeah, Amazon will vary prices by your habits.
It's
they won't even, you paid this much before, we'll charge you a little more to see if you pay that. But that's just,
I'm talking about the use of this for good.
yeah.
But yes, you can do it for bad, because you can do the same thing, which is, hey, Miami just got hit by a hurricane. You go to the Lowe's site and they're like, hey, we know we're the only people in town with generators, and you're coming from South Florida, here you go. We'll crank up the price, double it up, here you go.
Surge pricing, right there.
So, we can get into the technicalities of it, but there's something called geolocation that's built into the web in general. When you go to a website, there is, when you connect to a website, there's what's called a handshake that goes on where you pass some data back and forth. And one of the pieces of data is your IP of your machine. IPs, as a general rule, are geolocated. Different IPs are in different areas of the country. On top of that, browsers have built in, and you can turn this off, browsers will just say, not only do I know the IP, but I know sort of where you are. right? I know your GPS location, I know where I am, and it will send that along
Here's your lat long.
with the header. And so sites can go, I know exactly where you are, and can make decisions based off of that. That can be used for good and bad. In Europe, by default, that's all turned off. In the US, a lot of times what you'll see is it will come up and say, hey, I would like your location. Can I have your location? And some on that nice legal page says, we assume that we can take your location. In Europe, it's no. You cannot have their location. You cannot have their anything. You know, if you desperately need it, you have to prompt them. You have to explain to them exactly why you want it, and it will only be for that session.
So you use Tor, get a European exit node, and shop it out later.
Tor is a very good option. There are most retailers won't deal with it, but there are ways to get through Tor. Because essentially what Tor does is, I'm in my computer, this is my IP, and I'm trying to go to, let's say I'm trying to go to his website. What Tor does is it says, well, first I have to go to here. And then he says, I have your request. I'm going to open up another request here, but now it's for his IP. And now it's going to come to him. And it's going to go, you want to go here? I'm going to change the source IP to me, so I'm going to go here. So now you're getting your thing, and it's going to say, yeah, you're back here, which is 4 layers removed. ISP providers a lot of ISP providers can mask your IP. A lot of companies do it. So that everybody, for instance, if everybody's in an office and there's 100 people there, the ISP there, everybody who's in that office, in that internal network and goes out, will get one IP. Because the ISP has cloaked it. It has masked it all to that one. It's similar to what Tor does, except for Tor bounces you from one masking to another masking to another masking. And so to backtrack, you have to go, okay. Yeah.
I was just thinking that because I often, well, for work I have to use a VPN, and then I also have a VPN.
I don't need to hear what you're doing on Tor. I don't need to know about your personal life and what you're trying to. As a matter of fact, I probably need plausible deniability. But yes.
I was going to say that you can choose like a country or a location or like a part of a country that you want your IP from use. So with the geolocation, I assume that companies are relying on that less for things because they assume that the people will game the system.
Yes and no. Tor masks completely. There are some providers out there like that will send along saying, here's the source, but if you actually look in the packet, you'll see the original IP. Tor gets rid of the original IP. It says what you actually do is you make a request to him, and he gets the request and goes, he makes an independent request to him. So there's no backtracking. There are, though, like I said, certain ISPs and VPNs that will say, hey, I'm trying to make a request to him, but I'm going to make it through you, and he's going to send it on to him. That's fine, but part of it, he'll say that he is the source IP of the call, but then if you look in the packet, you'll see originator IP, which is me. So depends on the service you're going through and what level you're doing. Tor and some of the reason it's called the onion layer, right, is I make a request to him. He's independent. He literally takes the request and goes, okay, I'm going to now create a brand new request out to him. And this has nothing to do with e-commerce. But just if you want to know how Tor stuff works.
And then like the federal government and other organizations that want to know.
Yep. What they do is they say, he's the federal government. He says, I got a request from him. What they do is they set up a boundary around it. And they watch the traffic in and they watch the traffic go out.
All the exit nodes.
And so they say, a request came in here, and I saw it went out to these three. So that must be one of the ones that came in. So he then goes, let me go back to here, and let me see what's incoming and outgoing from him. And they basically backtrack that way.
In addition, a lot of people are pretty sure that a lot of these onion people, the CIA and the NSA have set up sites, and they monitor all this. It's supposed to be a bunch of, radical weirdos who are basically layering things.
Full of honeypots. If you want to do crime, Tor's probably not your.
Yes. If you want to do Facebook or wherever,
I don't recommend doing crime, by the way. Just like,
but if you do, he'd like a cut.
I was simply going for like anonymous use.
Just
be anonymous with us.
There are some nice browsers out there. DuckDuckGo is one that I know I've used before, where DuckDuckGo just simply goes, I don't know where you are, so I have no IP address to put in the source code. Now, that works great, except for there's some sites that say you have to have an IP. Because if you don't have an IP, you're probably a hacker, and they won't let you in. So which is why you'll find that some of these anonymous browsers won't actually work on some sites. Because without a source IP, you're probably somebody from somewhere trying to do bad things. It's just the assumption that they make, and they say, I'd rather lose your business than allow a hacker.
Happens to me with the banks. You simply, you will get, if you don't use like Google, because I use DuckDuckGo all the time, but if I go to my bank, I get to the site, and the moment that I put the password, it says incorrect password, reset the password.
Yep. Because it's not, you can create your own sort of website and make calls out to other websites. And one of the ways that you don't backtrack it to you is when you make the calls, you don't include the IP, so they don't know how to backtrack to you. Well, that's what bad actors do. If and when you get to the point where your site is big enough, there are these things called eCDNs that are out there. Akamai is one. They're the 800-pound gorilla in the market. They're actually pretty damn good. I would highly recommend them if you can afford them. They do two things. One is they make your site faster by essentially having copies of pages from your website residing in a local server. So that when the request comes in, so all requests on the website wind up going through a bunch of servers. Like I'll call him, he'll call him, he'll call, and it'll route over. There's functions you can use called trace route. They'll show you what all the jumps are. These things called eCDNs basically will say, hey, my server is in Alaska. Just making the call there and back takes time. So what you can do is, if I'm in Alaska, is I can bring in one of these eCDNs, and they will have servers in Baltimore. So when I run a search for it, and I say, hey, I want to go to the site, it'll go route to Baltimore. And Baltimore will go, yes, I have a copy of the page right here. Here you go. It's called an extended cache delivery network, content delivery network. These companies offer some really nice security functions because hackers are getting to their local server, and they're able to set up security on the local server so the traffic never even makes it to yours, which is a really nice feature. Akamai, based in Cambridge, I've done a bunch of work with them, that's why I'm high on them. I got to go to their main company. They have a war room that has the entire world on a map, and it shows you in real time where different attacks are happening. Because the attacks are happening against their servers in that local area.
Constantly.
Yes.
It doesn't stop.
It's actually really impressive. It's really impressive to see.
Is Cloudflare another one of those?
Yes,
Yeah.
Cloudflare is.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
Fastly. No.
Yeah. Akamai has been around the longest, and they're the 800-pound gorilla in the room because they're usually the ones who have the nice new feature functionality. But also, for the most part, they actually have security people on staff trying to hack sites that are on their network. They have people 24/7 trying to hack their stuff. Fastly is pretty good, but they're not as big. They don't have as much. Akamai will charge you a lot more. Cloudflare is pretty good. If anybody's ever used any of the Salesforce stuff, they work with Cloudflare. They put all their stuff through Cloudflare, which is a very nice set of things for them. Yeah.
Relevant to this conversation, literally yesterday afternoon, CloudFront, AWS and CDN had a DNS distribution issue, which caused a lot of, and it caused a lot of sites to go down. PBS Kids went down,
Yes.
for example,
Yep.
Yesterday.
It's I don't want to scare people, but there are certain pieces of the World Wide Web that are not as safe as secure as you would want them to be. About 10 years ago, there's these things called, when you create your website, you register your domain. There are these things called DNS, domain names services that are out there. So that your domain can appear essentially across the entire World Wide Web, it has to make it out to all the DNSs. As a result, this was 10 years ago. It's changed, but not that much. But as of 10 years ago, there were 7 main databases for DNSs for the entire world. And 10 years ago, somebody hacked and shut down one of them. It wreaked havoc for about 26 hours because that happened to be the one servicing the eastern half of the United States.
May East, and hence the other one is named May West. 2 major DNS points in the United States. May East and May West.
They've done a pretty good job of beefing them up since then, but that shocked a lot of people. They were like, so they hacked the database. Great, don't they have back? No, there were 7 databases in the entire world, and one of them went down, and it happened to be the one for the eastern United States.
It's all duct tape. It's amazing the internet works. It's all duct tape.
It works.
It does. It works, and for the most part, it works pretty well.
They're way past duct tape.
If you're a nice conspiracy theorist, you may have heard of the Sovereign 7 or something like that. That supposedly, in the United States, there are 7 individuals. Each one has a key, and they can use them to shut down the entire internet of the United States. If you're a conspiracy theorist, because the internet was
one of the 7, Gordon. Tell us now.
The internet was originally created by the Department of Defense as a way of interlinking and communicating between the services. So it started off in defense. Well, you don't want somebody hacking, and if they do, you want a way to shut it down. So the conspiracy theorists have come up with, I think they call them the Sovereign 7, I think is what it's called, and it's supposedly 7 people in the United States. Each has a key, and if need be, they can use their keys to shut down the internet in the entire United States.
Do it at the same time.
I suspect it's a key code that has to be entered somewhere. But there's a wonderful conspiracy. Yeah, so.
What a funny country.
Coming back on topic here, so we had talked a lot about metrics, right? How is your site doing? What is it doing? How can I get more people to buy? How can I gain business intelligence? What are my customers like? What are they doing? It starts with metrics.
Yeah, I was more thinking about when you said trying different things. You got to measure. You got to measure this.
You have to have metrics track your site. Conversion funnels all built on it. The big gun in the marketplace here is Google Analytics. It is, quite honestly, it's the easiest one to use. It really is. There are some other ones, Heap Analytics. Adobe has an analytics package. I'm blanking on the name right now.
amplitude, mixed panel.
Yeah,
there are tons of them.
there's a bunch, and you could also do your own homegrown one too. I've done that before, which was, as your site gets bigger, and if you're really kind of wondering how your site is doing, I would recommend you use it. the Google analytics is pretty cheap, but you may need some help in sort of how do I set all this up.
That's where your legalese is going to change because your privacy policy is.
Yep.
is
The big thing though with analytics is making sure you know what you're trying to track. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with Fortune 500 companies, very smart people, very big departments, and they basically said, we tried this, these are the metrics, they're horrible, we don't want to ever do that again, we're not going down that road. And my company comes in and looks at it and went, you're looking at the wrong metric. That's not what you should be looking at for this. You know, this is tracking this, and you should be tracking this. So metrics are great as long as you know exactly what it's tracking and what that actual means for your business. Hitting pages on your site happens all the time. You don't put in something special that says, by the way, this is Google hitting your site, it's going to throw off all your numbers. Because Google, Yahoo, all these things come in and they do what's called crawling your website. So they're trying to learn about your site, your products, what you sell, prices, so they crawl your website. There are ways you can control that, but if you don't do your metrics right, you're going to see every day, every 24 hours, somebody hits every single page on your site, but then doesn't make any purchase. That's just throw your metrics all out of whack.
Gemini, buy all my products.
I have one slide on this. Their entire books, their entire week-long, their entire 6-month-long courses taught on this subject.
And it changes every time Google makes change.
And I always say the same thing to my clients. If they say, well, what do you know about SEO? I said, I knew SEO inside out, upside down as of 6 months ago. So I don't know anything about it now. Because it literally changes. It is constantly changing. One of the things that's happening now is a lot of people are saying AI is going to kill SEO. It hasn't killed it yet. SEO is still there. SEO is still working. Google, though, basically, and Google is really the big one that you care about. But if you set yourself up for Google to crawl your site properly, to get the information properly from it, it'll work for the others. But Google is the leader, and they're always ahead. So I've been dealing with SEO now for almost 20 years. And here's what happens. People learn how to optimize their site so that you go up on the Google rankings. And you want to be up high because people don't like to scroll. They want to run a search on Google. They don't want to go through 3 or 4 pages for things. They usually stop at the first or second. So what happened is Google put out and said, this is what we look at for your website. And so companies would actually go out and set up tests. I'll do this based on what they're saying. And they see how that changes the ranks. There are companies that did very well at this. And so people started complaining to Google about it. They were like, if I buy your ad services, I get to be up there #1, but you guys are expensive. If I buy from Charlie's XYZ company who's figured out your algorithm, I do great, and they charge me half as much, I'm going to go with them. And Google went, yeah, we don't like that. So Google says, well, let's see, what are they doing? All right, we're going to change this a little bit. We're going to tweak this, we're going to look at this now. Suddenly that algorithm doesn't work anymore, and because they specifically have said, if you're using that algorithm, I know you're using that algorithm, I'm going to move you down the list. And one thing you should know about Google, it is very easy to be moved down the list. It is very hard to move back up. It is just, once you move down the list, it is really, really hard to go back up. So Google basically every 6 months to a year tweaks their algorithms a little bit. So what you were doing before won't necessarily get you the best results, which is why I always say my SEO knowledge is 6 months out of date. You had a question?
You said it's really hard to move back
Yes.
if you fall down. Does the same hold true if you're trying to compete on phrases or words that are already sort of owned or dominated by a company or business? Do you compete with?
So, yes and no. Google has heard the cries of people who are like, hey, I'm just getting in here. And I'm really in this niche market, but I got these guys over here just eating these search terms and I can't get anywhere close. There is something, what is it? Google Search Console that you can sign up for. It is very inexpensive. And basically you tell Google, here is my website. Here is what I'm good at. Here are the search terms that I think should be triggering me. And at this point, you're not paying them for anything. What happens is they will crawl your site and they will come back to you saying, yeah, I know what you told me, but that's not what I'm seeing. And here's what you need to do to try and fix it. So they will help you. However, the easiest way to get Google to help you is to pay. Google AdWords, it's actually it's less expensive than you think it would be to get yourself boosted. The problem is everybody else knows it. So even though you're paying to be boosted, 20 of your competitors are as well. And so, okay, you make it in the top 20. How many, when you run a Google search, does 20 make it above, does 20 make it into the first page? Does 20 make it above the fold on the first page? There you go. So, you can, like I said, if you use Google Search Console and you do what it says, it will definitely help you. And if I recall correctly, they may even offer a free one, free service for Google Search Console. I can't remember offhand. But basically, big companies are running around constantly tweaking their SEO. They're just constantly doing it because the rules are constantly changing. And everybody knows if you drop down, it's really hard to recover.
Who holds the standard?
Google. I don't know any
They don't
other way
like
to
to
say
tell
it.
you anymore on purpose.
No, they're really. If you go to, like I said, Google Search Console, there's a whole bunch of documentation there which says, here are the current standards for what you need to do on your site. It's a file called robots text. There's something called a sitemap. There are keywords, which actually aren't, if I recall correctly, keywords are not used much anymore. It has gotten so smart that it says, are you presenting information above the fold or below the fold on a page? Because that tells me whether how important you consider it. If you put it above the fold, you want your customers to see it, so that means it's even more important. Because there were some tricks people were doing, like they would throw keywords on the bottom of the page. I don't know if every now and then you'll go to a page, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll just see a bunch of keywords. What the hell are these things?
There's a white background with white text.
White background.
Yeah.
Resume, the keywords.
Exactly. So Google has now gotten to the point where they go, hey, I know what you're trying to do here, and I'm not going to let you do it.
Do you think they're gamifying it to force people to pay?
Hmm?
Do you think they're gamifying it to force people to pay?
Corporation.
Yeah,
No,
I suppose that answers my question.
No, so they may now be. Originally what they were trying to do they basically were saying, they put out a set of rules and said, if you follow these rules, that's how we work. We'll put you up there. And then what happened is you got all these companies that came in and was like, okay, we know how to work the system. We know how to play with these rules to get you boosted up higher. And so people were getting artificially boosted, and Google and people were complaining, and Google actually heard them. Google said, all right, we're going to try and level the playing field. So they went and tweaked it a little bit. Nowadays, you're talking 10, 15 years later, there may be some of that. I mean, there was a period of time where Google was this great search engine, and the valuation of Google itself was crap because they didn't sell much. Then they started going in and it's like, well, let's start selling this information. Let's start doing this, right? And that's when they started getting huge. Well, they also started saying, if you really want to be boosted up high, we can help you with that.
Yeah, that's an e-commerce lesson in and of itself, isn't it?
So I like to give them the benefit of the doubt because I know there was a time where they said, no, we're really trying to equalize the playing field. We're trying to, if people follow the rules and you don't try and game, we will put you in the appropriate place. I know there was a period of time they went through it. I went through it with 2 different companies. We had phone calls with Google and talked to them about things, and they really did help. Again, that was about 10 years ago. Nowadays, so all I will say about SEO is, I know the basics of it. I know what Google generally is looking for, but my knowledge of the latest and greatest SEO techniques is 6 months out of date, which basically means I don't know much at all. I mentioned this before. And this is a really, I think, interesting thing. And the concept here is you want to essentially advertise your product on somebody else's site. Rakuten originally started as a way of doing that. They had a, what were they? They were called, they had the best name in the world. Their website, the original website was called buy.com. And they decided to rebrand and they became Rakuten. Don't know why. So buy.com, one of the things they did is they basically said, they went out to a bunch of different companies and they said, we're going to set up a marketplace so you can sell your products on our site. However, as a part of that, there is a 100 by 100 pixel that we want on your website that we're going to post information to. And that was the origin of the cross-site marketing, where basically, if you went to buy.com, you were selling your product through them, and you paid the money for cross-site marketing, your product could appear in that little window. This was before AI, so it was kind of random. But because everybody was signing up for it, they had to say like what their company did. So if they were if they were cars or something, and you were selling tires, they would be like, oh, on the car site, let's put the tire thing up. They started being a little smart about it, but this was before AI. Nowadays, you don't see as much cross-site marketing. People get weirded out when they're on one site and they see an advertisement for another site for something. It's still around, and you can still do it, especially that there's a big market for this in services. If you are selling services, cross-site, you're nodding your head. You probably have it with a bunch of other local companies that you guys cross-sell. It's big with services because you can do complimentary services, you can do local services of, hey, here's my website, but I'll have a link off to somebody else's.
I assume you have to view this differently than like affiliates, because like influencers is a, Instagram. That's like the whole reason it exists is these influencers are selling wares and stuff. So it seems like a different universe maybe.
Affiliates. It's a terminology thing. Affiliates typically means that you have an agreement with that company. Cross-site marketing is, I have an agreement with a cross-site marketing company, and they put me out to other things. Affiliates usually are, one of the sites I'm currently working on is for a company called progleasing.com. They do, you can make a purchase and you use them as the payment and you pay over time. You set up they call it, it's a lease. It's a contract to pay basically once a month for a year or two or whatever to pay off your purchase. They are an affiliate with Best Buy. If you go to Best Buy and say, I really want to purchase this, but I want to pay over time on their POS or even on their website, it'll come up and say, we have progleasing.com, you can go fill out a form, but there is a explicit agreement between the two companies to do that.
And then what's the interest rate?
Actually, it's not bad, but they have interesting rules, like consumables you cannot do it with. Like, oh, I want to buy a candy bar, pay it for, well, if you're going to the movie theaters these days and you pay $800 for the candy bar, maybe I do want to pay over the course of the next year. The problem is if you don't pay, well, you can't do it. They also don't allow things for like guns, right? Because they don't want to be somebody go into a gun store, buy it without money they don't have, and then go out and do bad things with it. There are a couple companies there. Affirm does it. I think Stripe or Square might offer something along those lines too. So there are a lot of companies that are doing this. And so for them, affiliate means they have a direct agreement with that company. The cross-site marketing stuff I'm talking about is you're in agreement with the cross-site marketing company, and they get you
distribution channel.
And yeah, exactly. They get you out to a bunch of others. But yes, you can do an affiliate. Like her stuff where she's cross marketing. That's probably I would consider that affiliate because you have an agreement with the specific people to do that.
We also do like locations too. So like with a service, we've got to because my husband trains dogs, we go to local parks and we will like map those out to them, take pictures and everything.
I'm betting you don't have an affiliate agreement with a taxidermist.
Do not.
Would be my guess.
Do not. No.
No.
Just local pet stores and groomers.
Yeah.
Remember it forever.
Sorry, you just got a hint of my sense of humor. I apologize for that. I'm thinking in my head, taxidermists, lawyers who deal with animal attacks. So it's like,
Insurance.
yeah. All right. We've talked a bit about a bunch of things. We've talked about metrics and stuff. You mentioned this with influencers and things like that. People these days now love ratings and reviews of your products and services.
Yeah, they drive you nuts with that stuff. They constantly ask you.
Yes.
That's the first thing I check, man. Like, is this thing any good?
Because it is a good form of advertising, right? You can go out to Google and say, hey, they got 6 stars. I can go to Yelp. How many stars do they have? More importantly, you can go in and look at a comment that says, hey, I went to this seminar about e-commerce and this idiot Gordon had no idea what the hell he was talking about and rambled on for 20 minutes about Tor and nobody cared and whatnot, right? And I'd give him negative stars if I could, right? But, right, nowadays, I'm a little old. I generally, I know what I'm looking for. I don't know. My daughter is 22. She doesn't buy anything from anybody unless she looks at some of the reviews to see what they're saying.
Yeah, so do you help companies with sentiment analysis and reputation and things like that?
Thank you. All the metrics in the world, all of the ratings in the world don't help you unless you are looking at it and running analysis on it. Exactly. Yes, we do. But again,
They try to fix it.
yes. You'll hear terms, data lakes. You'll hear all kinds of terms, especially at a lot of retailers. And this comes back to who is your audience, right? We had an interesting thing happen to us at Brookstone. They said, our audience for most of our stuff is men who make money between the ages of, I think it was 35 and 50. That's who we sell to. And we brought in somebody, very smart company, who went in, did an analysis, looked at the people making the purchases, and came back and presented to us saying, no, you've got your audience wrong. And we all went, wow, help us. What are we doing? They said, yes, 90% of your customer are women 35 to 50 purchasing your products.
For their husbands or something.
And we went, they're not buying them for themselves. Some of them are, yes. Most of them are buying them for the male in their life. Always be open though, because your audience will change over time. We at Brookstone, we were like, oh my God, thank you. What is it? And they told us, and we went, no, no, it's, that's not right.
Is Brookstone tires?
No.
It was
It was a store in the mall that sold gadgets, toys,
Massage chair.
massage chairs. They had gardening stuff. They had, they had camping equipment that basically you would hit a button and everything would just fold out for you. It was higher quality stuff, higher end stuff, but it was stuff you couldn't find anywhere else because most of it was either patented in-house, or Brookstone worked with a lot of people on patenting their products and then bringing them to thing. As a matter of fact, who here knows of Kickstarter and Indiegogo?
Yeah.
Yep. Before that, when Kickstarter and Indiegogo came into being, we had a funnel of inventors that were coming to us. And when Kickstarter and Indiegogo came in, we lost half of that funnel because people went straight to doing it themselves. So we then partnered at the time. We went in to Indiegogo and Kickstarter and did a partnership with them and said, if somebody is using your service and would like to sell at Brookstone, click here. And that became a pipeline for us. We started getting people who would put things on Indiegogo or Kickstarter. It would take off. They'd be like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to manufacture all this. Kickstarter go talk to Brookstone. And then we would bring them in and do it. But when those two things took off, we lost 50% of our influx of inventors and things, bringing us things. Because we were known for a long time of, I got this quirky little gadget, let me go show it to Brookstone. And we'd be like, oh yeah, we like that. Yeah, let's go. I'm going to skip over. We're going to get into 301 because I know you Python people want to know about this. And we only have a few minutes left. So. AI is changing e-commerce. It just is. You're going to read a bunch of articles of AI is killing SEO. It's not there yet. It may in the future. It just is becoming a difference. The AIs are, I would view it as a competitor to Google. And so you want to gear your site to allow them to see things as well as Google. And they look for different things. The big things that AI are doing range from a little chatbot to help you deal with customer questions, right? You don't have that person, but you now have these guys. And setting up a chat going to a bunch of people in a customer service area is very expensive. Having an AI with scripts and learning, a lot less expensive. Especially when you hire somebody like this guy who goes in, or no, who else? Who did AI? It was you, wasn't it? Yeah, you, yeah, go hire him. But I told you I've done this thing a lot. And I used to akin setting up a website to think about opening your own store. And search and advertising, SEO is the advertising, right? It's newspaper ads and other things to get people to your store. How do people find products in your store? Well, you can have big signs up that say, hey, hammers are here and nails are here. That's categorization. Search. Go up to somebody. Hey, I'm looking for this. And if you're a male and you can swallow your ego and go do that instead of wandering around, great. I knew you'd like that joke. What AI is doing is it looks at the model of, probably one here is, but rich people, very rich people, they don't walk into a store and say, I want this or this. They have what's called a personal shopper. And they tell the personal shopper, hey, these are the things I'm looking for. And he goes off, or he or she goes wandering off, grabs a bunch of stuff and says, okay, based on what you said, here's what you want. That's AI. That's what AI is doing now. My company just finished doing a big project with Pandora. If you go to the Pandora site right now, it will come up and go, let me help you. Tell me about the person that you're buying this for. That is an AI that we help them develop and we help build for them. That basically is a personal shopper for them. It's taking the rich people, hey, I don't want to go looking around things again. People don't like to scroll, don't like doing anything. They just say, hey, I'm looking for this. And it goes, let me run off and bring back the selection for you. Not quite what you're looking for. Well, tell me how to tweak it, how to do it. It's a personal shopper.
It's better defined as than the search system, mostly in the big websites. For now.
Yes. There was a interim thing that I actually still do for websites today without AI called guided search. You can get a similar thing where you ask somebody a series of questions and it will narrow down the search for them. There's no AI behind it. It's just a script that you set up with, it's essentially a binary tree where you're doing decisions like, okay, this is where I want to go. AI has now stepped in and said, yeah, we'll do that for you. You don't have to worry about building that. But yeah, it's, so if you can't afford AI because companies that are doing these personal shoppers are charging a lot of money for it, they are getting a good return on it. But you can get a similar effect without AI by doing something called guided search, which is literally just a series of questions you ask them to help basically narrow down what they're looking for. But AI has pretty much supplanted that.
So more people being replaced by AI.
Yep. A couple of other things, customer service. Hey, tell me about the warranties on this, like tires, like Goodyear has a huge thing on warranties and tires and what happens if it wears out and get a nail and here's your warranty. It explains all the legalese and stuff like that. Recommendations. So recommendations with AI has been around now for about 5-6 years. It is one of the first things in AI to hit an e-commerce site where basically you will look at a product and it will say, hey, you may also like these. And as the more things you look at, the more it will narrow down that list of what it is. That's actually been around for a while. But now we're getting into the personal shoppers, which is, I don't know if anybody here remembers Seinfeld. Anybody? The whole thing where Kramer was movie phone and he couldn't understand that. Well, why don't you tell me what it is you're looking for? That's about all I have. That's all I have. I did want to mention a couple of helpful tools and platforms here. This is a Gartner quadrant. For those of you who don't know Gartner, they go into large companies who give them millions of dollars to figure out who the leaders are in certain markets. This is the Gartner quadrant. This was from 2025 for e-commerce platforms. I know it's hard to see. Salesforce Commerce Cloud's here, Shopify here, Commerce Tools here.
What are the axes again for that?
Challengers, leaders, niche players, and visionaries.
Ability to execute is vertical, and completeness of vision is horizontal.
Yep. But let's see, what isn't in here? So,
You always want to be
but if you go,
Wait in that corner.
these are, I will preface this by saying these are the big ones. These are the ones you pay a lot of money for the most part. And they hand you a platform that handles managing your products, managing your categories. A lot of them have some kind of rudimentary AI built in for doing recommendations. They have typically what are called cartridges for handling payments. So you typically will have like a Chase payment method or a Square or a Stripe one, and you just plug it in and it just works.
You know, and I think people are creatures of habit, and as these things mature and, you know, there's bigger companies doing these things, the sites may vary in style, but the mechanics of it's all the same. It's getting like very standard now.
Yeah, and so companies ask the question.
So as a consumer, you're not like learning a new interface.
Right.
Well, that's the thing.
UX is kind of.
Companies will come in and say, I want to be different.
You know.
And that's a fine-edged sword. So what you can do that's different is the styling of your site and styling it towards what your audience wants. If you remember Drunk Elephant, you don't remember it, I was giving you a headache, but just
Yes.
you know? But you can change the sort of the styling of the site and how you present things. But the basic fundamentals of having a shopping cart, actually, some of these have changed. There was a time was you always go to a PDP page, or a product detail page. You always add to cart. You always go to a cart page, look at everything in your cart. You then go into your checkout. Checkout will ask you for your shipping address. Then it will ask you for your payment address, and then you will complete your checkout. When was the last time somebody went through all that when making a purchase? Especially Amazon. How many people right from the product detail page? Buy now. Click here. Boom. Done. Don't have to do anything else. So yes, there are changes, and yes, there are people who are kind of pushing some of the envelope on it. But like you said, got to be a little careful depending upon your audience. I mean, if I'm selling to an older crowd, they want the old style way of doing it. My daughter.
Amazon patented one-click.
Yeah. My daughter, she loves one-click. She's like, I don't know why I have to go through and check 12 different things. I want this, I want it on, delivered as soon as they'll will, and I just click here, send it to me.
Well, just a few months ago on Amazon, it was only one button for subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you were not paying attention, you went through the one click and you were not reading the whole thing. All of a sudden you start getting, I don't know, makeup every month.
Yep.
Two different subscriptions.
And I will not judge you for getting makeup once a month. That's your thing, and good for you.
You gotta look pretty.
Yeah.
Build your own e-commerce.
I want to mention this because this gets overlooked. I have a product I want to sell. What's the easiest way for me to sell it? It's not creating your own website. It's selling it on Amazon, eBay, Etsy. Right? You can even set up your own storefront in these guys.
Yeah.
Right? Very cheap, very easy. If you're just starting out, it's something to consider. Because I've given this presentation to groups like this before and have people that come to me and they're like, yeah, I want to go with Shopify, and well, what do you sell? Oh, I sell a pencil. Yep. And it's a really neat pencil. I'm like, no, you don't want Shopify. You don't want this. You don't want. Put it here. Gain yourself some money, get yourself a couple of other products, then go doing it. But there are people who are like, I want to, create. Don't be afraid, by the way, if you are going to sell here, you can still create a website. It's just not an e-commerce site.
Yeah,
it's an informational site.
It's a site that takes you to Amazon.
Right. It just says, hey, here's my product. Here's why it's better than the other things. And if you want to buy it, click the link here and go to Amazon and buy it. Perfectly doable. Perfectly fine. You don't have to jump into Salesforce, which is going to charge you $1 million just to talk to them. I mean, you don't need to do that.
The risk with Amazon is the Amazon basic stuff. If you have a popular product, they would then put out a copy. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's companies like Square, which does little credit cards. You can set up a quick little website with them to sell a product very quick, very easy. And I believe they just, instead of charging 25 cents per transaction, which they normally do with their cards, it's like 30 cents or something like that. I mentioned some of these throughout the things, right? Your analytics, Google, Adobe Heap, SEO, Google Merchant Center. There are some tools for walking through your site to see how it's going to rank on some of these websites. It is the worst name, two of the worst names I've ever heard of products. One's called Screaming Frog. Screaming Frog you pay for, but the insights from Screaming Frog are fantastic. Beam Us Up. Somebody saw Screaming Frog, said, I like that, but I think it should be free, so this is freeware. However, they still have a horrible name. AI is for doing recommendations. A bunch of platforms have them built in. Salesforce, we talked to them, has Einstein. Shopify has, I can't remember. It was like Lisa or something weird like that. I can't remember. But Bloomreach, Clevo, Site are recommendation engines. And basically, what you do is you feed a bunch of data to them over the course of like 30 days, and then you drop something on your site. And it's basically has been now tracking people for 30 days and says, other people who saw this product like this, purchased this, or somebody bought this and did this. And they offer those insights to you.
What about the in-the-flesh tools called influencers? A lot of people use influencers to promote their products.
Yes, I don't really talk much about it. Influencers is hit or miss from what I have seen. I know some companies who have influenced influencers to give positive reviews of their product. Sort of works until people find out that you influenced the influencer. If you're going to open yourself up to have influencers review things, you better be prepared for them not to like your product. And you want them to be honest. That's the hard thing for people to understand. An influencer say, I don't like this. And they're like, I don't like, and usually they'll go, well, I don't like it because of this, this, and this. And you want to accept that. You want to go, okay, I hear you, and I'm going to make changes to try and address those things. And then you send it back to them. But you need to be prepared. If you're going to show influencers and show those things on your site, it's going to be good or bad. There are, like TikTok and stuff, you can bring links directly in. Usually you can set up your own channels for things and you can put those things in. I have seen companies curate those feeds. And again, because they want to show, hey, how great it is. And then somebody will come along and be like, hey, I reviewed this and I'm not seeing my review there. And I know I should be there. So then suddenly people go, oh, they're only showing the positives. So I think influencers can be used, is a useful tool. It can be used very nicely on your websites. You just have to be prepared to take the good with the bad, or bad with the good, as the case may be. And you also definitely, if you're going to do that, you definitely want to react to the bad. You want to say, if you looked on our site, or you looked in our channel, and you looked on this date, you'd see that so-and-so said such and such about our product. Version 2.0, we resolved those issues.
That builds trust.
Right. Yes. Anything else I can answer for you? And for those who are looking to build a website, there are several unemployed people in this room who I think would be very willing to help you work on that. I will tell you that if you're looking to do an e-commerce site and you just want to get some things under your belt, go to charities. They are looking for free labor to do things with their sites. They're looking for it because they can't spend money, but it gives you a chance to go and learn some of those things. I did some work with Make-A-Wish New Hampshire. I did some work with Sleep in Heavenly Peace up in New Hampshire as well. Some of that was to learn some new technology, and some of it was just my way of volunteering.
And they'll teach you to work on a shoestring budget because they have no money. So it's like you get
don't
crafty.
expect any money from
Learn a lot of
it.
great things working on
It's
nonprofit.
you don't expect to be paid, but it gives you the experience that you can then put on your resume to say, hey, I've worked on this technology. Earlier on in my thing where I had the introduction, I listed out the websites. That garners more phone calls and more hits on LinkedIn than anything else about my resume. I've worked on 8 multi-million-dollar websites. Actually, probably more like a dozen at this point. And just having that list gives me more hits. So if you work with, hey, I worked with, Frederick YMCA, and I managed their site to do this, this, and this. That'll garner you hits. That will help. It shows that you've actually done something, and it's also speaks to your nature of doing volunteer work.
Speaking of that, there is a nonprofit called US Digital Response. They take people, you can work remotely with them and work on different counties across the country, like in Midland, different tools. It's really useful to be in that meeting.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.